Yep.
All right, cool. How's everybody doing?
Good.
You guys can unmute yourselves.
Oh,
Yeah, feel free to have you guys unmuted. You know, we're going to go through this contract. So if you guys feel as though you need to jump in or, you know, ask any questions as I'm going through this, feel free to do so. Okay.
Okay.
Got it.
All right. Perfect. Okay. Did you guys have any questions from the first part of the series? No? Pretty good.
None.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we're going to start with this page here. This page is the cover sheet to the listing contract. So when you're going to hand in a listing, you want to make sure that you have all that applied, okay, on this sheet here. So you're going to have this form, which is the listing checklist, the KW franchise addendum, the agency disclosure, fair housing disclosure, COVID disclosure, MLS printout, exclusive right to sell, MLS data, delayed negotiations if applicable, residential rental 1 to 4 family if applicable, property condition disclosure, most of the time it's applicable, lead disclosure if the house was built prior to 1978. And you want to make sure that you have, you want to print out the school and town taxes, okay? Where you go and get that is on monroecounty.gov. And on the right-hand side of monroecounty.gov, let's see here. Are you guys able to see this screen right here? Okay. Here it says view and pay taxes. Okay, we'll click that. You always agree. And you want to type in an address. Okay. If you go up here where it says pay property taxes, this is going to give you the true school taxes and the true town and county. I always round up, even if it's 08, I'll just say 4519 just to protect myself. Okay. Now, what you want to do is you always want to print this page. Okay, and you want to hand it in. Now, if you're listing a house in a village, there's also going to be a village tax. So you're going to want to call the village and ask what the village tax is, okay? Okay. Okay, let me see where I was. There we go. Okay. All right. So now this is our Keller Williams franchise addendum. This form has just recently changed. Pretty much the reason why it changed is because now we're offering and we're in business with a warranty company. Okay. So here, your buyer and or seller will initial here and say that they're either going to accept or waive the home warranty. Okay. So the offices now, we have good information on home warranties. So, you know, I would always have something with you so that you can show the seller, okay, this is what the home warranty packages are. Kind of the good news is that if we do, let's say they do decide to have a home warranty, we get a little bit of money for each warranty that we provide. Okay. So with that being said, because there's that relationship now that we're able to get paid and Keller Williams is, we have to show this affiliated business arrangement disclosure statement. And this is with both buyers and sellers. So this is a brand new form that they just implemented about a month and a half ago. Okay. So here, seller or buyer initials, they'll either accept or waive. They'll sign. We have to put their address, phone number, and email address in here now, and then we also have to sign it ourselves. Okay. Same thing here. If they decide not to use it, they'll still have to acknowledge. Any questions?
Would the seller ever select that? I mean, is that something they would select so they could offer that, or how does that work?
Yeah, sometimes, I've been with Keller Williams just shy of 3 years, and we really haven't had something that was like a good warranty company. But this company now, they have a good warranty. This is for the warranty information, okay? And then what's happening is that, a lot of buyers are, and a lot of buyers are waiving their engineer's inspections. So a lot of times, they may say, hey, listen, you know what, you might run into a buyer that does, they're dead set on waiving an engineer's inspection. And they're losing out on 3, 4, 5 houses because other buyers are waiving it. So what might give them peace of mind is, hey, listen, what do you think about having a home warranty? Maybe that gives them a little bit of peace of mind, right? So I would bring it to your buyer presentations and also your listing presentations. So yeah, I think we're going to start seeing the warranty being used more. Okay. And then this form, I may have gotten ahead of myself. This form here is for insurance. So like, let's say homeowners insurance that you want to say, hey, listen, you know what? We have an affiliated program with Oasis Group that you may want to talk to. If your buyer or seller decides to, get their insurance through here, I believe, we're able to wet our beak, for a lack of a better expression, on each one that we sell. Okay. Any questions on that? All right. Division of licensing. So this is a very important form. So this is when we discuss agency with a seller. Okay. So this is the first sheet, and now we're going to go into where they're going to sign. So who can tell me who the licensee is?
I'm the
Everybody at
licensee.
once. Okay, you're the licensee. Okay.
Yeah.
And what company do you work for?
Keller Williams.
Okay. We're representing the seller in this transaction, correct?
Correct.
And we're going to be the seller's agent. Okay. Now, this area here, we're going to talk to the seller about advanced. We want to get their consent in advance for dual agency and dual agency with designated sales agents. Okay. So who can tell me what dual agency is?
When an agent is representing the buyer and a seller in a transaction.
When an agent's representing a buyer and seller in a transaction. Yes. Very good. Thank you. Okay. Now, do we want to get involved in dual agency?
Not particularly.
Right? There's kind of a gray area with it. Like, how are you supposed to represent both parties equally, right? Or how are you supposed to have your fiduciary duty to the seller and also the buyer, right? So there's a little bit of a gray area there. But it would be nice for us to get both ends of the transaction, right? It'd be nice for us to get 6% versus 3%. So now, we'll get back to that in a second. Who can tell me what dual agency is with designated sales agents?
Keller Williams represents both sides of the transactions with two separate sales agents.
Very good, okay? So let's say I represent the seller and you represent the buyer, okay? So what I normally do is the way that I explain this is I'll say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you know, Keller Williams has 500 plus agents. There's a good chance that one of our agents may have a buyer for your house. If they do, because we work under the same roof and we work for the same company, we're considered a dual agent, but I still represent you as a seller and the other realtor will still represent their buyer as the buyer's agent. Once you have that conversation with them, they're very good with it. Now, okay, so then once we go seller, seller's agent, we have to check both boxes here and the seller will sign. Okay? To protect yourselves, go back to this page, have the seller read what a seller's agent is, what a dual agent is, and what a dual agent with designated sales agent is, and have them initial next to each one. That allows for you to protect yourself so that if something was ever to come back to you and they can't say that you explained it incorrectly to them because they also read it and they initialed it. Okay? Now, let's say you have the house listed and someone comes into your open house and they're not working with a realtor. Now, this is an opportunity where we can get both sides of the transaction, okay? So what I do is when somebody comes in and they're not working with a realtor, I'll let them know that I do represent the seller in this transaction. If they would like to write up an offer, they can, 1, find a buyer's agent. 2, I can refer somebody to them. Or 3, I can write up the offer for them. I still represent the seller. I will not give any type of information, counsel, or nothing. I just ask, what would you like to offer? What's your financing? Just pretty much basic questions, okay? That allows me to be able to still represent the seller. I disclosed to the buyer what their rights are. If they still decide to write up the offer with me, then I can do that and get both ends of the transaction. So that eliminates dual agency. Questions? After 25 times of doing this class, I have no questions. So maybe I explained it right this time. But like, it's very, very important that if you have any questions about this form, because this is probably the one form that is filled out incorrectly by agents who are brand new and agents who have been in the business for 25 years.
How would you
Okay.
put that in? I'm sorry to interrupt. How would you put that in writing if the buyer wanted to have you write up the offer for them if you're still representing the seller to cover
Great
your
question. Great question. Okay, so let's say now we're going to write up the offer for the buyer, right? We're still going to have to use one of these forms when we're writing up the offer, correct? So what you're going to do is you're still the licensee. You're still, the company name. You're still the seller's agent. Buyer instead of seller. So this says that the signature of the buyer acknowledges that you are the seller's agent, and then they sign. Very good question.
And so you would
make
still
sense?
do both sides of the deal on that, though?
Yes, yep. It's a beautiful thing when it happens. But again, you have the same conversation with your seller. If a buyer was to come in and they're not working with a realtor, this is how I handle the situation. Okay? If they're okay with it, then you're free to go ahead and explain it like we just talked about. Okay? Any other questions?
But that's not the box being checked for advanced informed consent for dual agency. You're technically not being a dual agent though.
Correct. So the form that we talked about before is when you sit down with the seller. You're explaining what a seller's agent is and what these are. Okay?
Yeah.
Now that form is handed in. Now you have the house listed, you're doing an open house. Buyer comes in. Anytime you write up an offer for a buyer, you have to fill out a new disclosure. Okay? So what you're disclosing to that buyer is that you represent the seller and they're signing it and acknowledging it.
But if they wanted, you could represent the buyer also because the seller gave you advanced consent, or you shouldn't.
You could, but it's a very slippery slope. I would recommend that you let the buyer know you're representing the seller, and they can choose to find a buyer's agent. They can allow you to refer somebody, or you write up the offer.
Okay.
Agency is a slippery slope. Okay. So that's how I would recommend doing it. Any other questions? Okay. Your anti-discrimination disclosure. So you'll have the seller read this. The form provided me by the licensee of the broker's name, we, seller's name, and they sign and date. Very straightforward. COVID-19 disclosure. They'll read this. They will sign, print your name, company name. Fair housing notice. This doesn't need to be signed or anything, but this is good to have on display at the property and just have the have the seller read it over. Okay, here's the exclusive right to sell contract. So, owners of the property, of the property located at, this is going to be the address of the property. Number two, we're going to sell the property, so we're going to check this box here. And I hereby hire. Who are they hiring?
Keller Williams.
They are not hiring Rick Visca of Keller Williams Realty. They're hiring Keller Williams Greater Rochester, West, or Gateway. Your name is not to go on that line. Okay? This would be if you're going to lease the property. Well, we're talking about multiple listing of property here. Multiple listing service. So this says that the house has to be listed within 24 hours of the seller signing this offer. Okay? So seller signs it today. You have to have it listed by tomorrow. Now, let's say you have all the paperwork ready to go. You're going over to the house. You're going to list it. You walk inside and the seller says, oh, you know what, Rick? I don't want to list it until next Thursday because I want to finish up some painting. Do we want to leave the house without a signed listing contract? No, right? In this market, if somebody sees a garage sale, buyers are going to the house and asking if the sellers are selling. Could you imagine if they see a truck in there painting the house? Right? We might lose the listing. So how do we protect ourselves? I'm going to skip forward just a little bit. See this number 26? You can write here, home to be listed on or before the date that they're going to be ready. So let's say they say they're going to be ready on the 15th. Home to be listed on or before April 15th, 2021. So they can sign it today. And with just putting that language in number 26, that allows you to be able to put the listing in at a later date. Okay? Feel free to pop in, ask me any questions. Excuse me. Now, that 24 hours also goes for publishing on social media. You are not able to publish on any social media more than 24 hours before you list the property. It has to be within 24 hours. Okay? Now, payment to realtor. What's our percentage? What do we get paid percentage-wise?
6.
6%. Okay. So I will pay a realtor a commission of 6% of the gross sale price, or see this dollar amount? This is an either or, either 6% or a dollar amount. Real estate companies like to have at least a $3,000 commission. So if you're going to list a $40,000 house, 6% of 40,000 is $2,400. We like to get $3,000. You know, you want to say, you know what, our minimum commission is $3,000. That's where instead of putting in a dollar amount, you're going to put in, or I'm sorry, a percentage, you're going to put in a dollar amount. Okay. Now, how does that get broken up? How does the broker's agent get paid?
3.
Okay, so let's try this one. Buyer's broker, so buyer's agent. What does the buyer's agent get paid?
3.
3%. There's no broker's agent and there's no sub agent. So it's 0, 3, 0. The other 3% goes to us, the listing agent, equals 6. Okay. If it was $3,000, instead of having 3% here, it would be half of 3,000. You'd have 1,500 on this line. Either or. Question? Okay. Payment of commission is due when the house closes. Submissions of offers to purchase. We have to present all offers. So if you list a property, $200,000, and someone comes in with a $100,000 offer, you still have to present that offer to the seller. You might have to do it with a helmet on, but you still have to present the offer to the seller. Okay? So all offers must.
Does that have to be a written offer, or if somebody just comes and says, I would pay 100,000 for this? I mean, are you obligated to tell them that, or only written offers?
You're probably obligated to tell them that, but I would tell the person who's coming in with the $100,000 verbal offer that they have to put it in writing.
Okay.
Okay. Because what's the saying? A verbal offer isn't worth the paper that it's not written on, or something, right? So you have to have, I would have all offers in writing. They get a lot more serious when they're in writing. So all offers, though, must be presented to the seller. So, you know, let's say you accept an offer on a Friday. It hasn't gone to the attorney yet, and somebody presents an offer on Sunday. Do you still have to present that offer to the seller?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. What happens if the seller wants to accept that offer? Accept it. You'll have to go back to the agent who you signed the offer with before and say, hey, listen, another offer came in on the property that my seller wants to accept. And if that happens, then the attorney would have to disapprove the first contract and then accept the second contract. So all offers have to be presented to the seller. Okay. We have to get permission to put a for sale sign up, a lockbox, be able to take photographs, and that they'll maintain the property. Duties of the realtor: best efforts to procure a buyer, will be in full compliance with local, state, federal housing laws against discrimination on the basis of race, creed, color, religion, national origin, sex, sexual orientation, familial status, marital status, age, disabilities, military status, and other legal protected statuses. Okay. If your seller does not want to abide by this, you leave, you walk out. Okay. We do not want to do business with anybody who is not going to adhere to paragraph 12, plain and simple. Leave. Obligations of the property owner and the information. They agree to refer all inquiries about the property to you. So let's say your sign is out front and someone knocks on the door. It's up to the seller to let that person know that they have to contact you. Okay? This also says that all information about the property that they have given to the realtor is accurate and complete. Owner representations. This happened after the mortgage fallout. We want to make sure they're not in bankruptcy. They have sufficient funds to close. There is no mortgage or tax foreclosure, and they're not 2 or more months behind in any mortgage payments. You might have a seller that says true to all these, and they might actually be false. So hopefully, number 13, they read that and they say and they answer this correctly. Okay. Improvements. I'm sorry.
What happens if they aren't truthful about that and you find out otherwise?
Oh, it's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. So just to give you a story, I mean, I had a listing one time, and you know, 3 weeks before closing, they do a title search and they find out that there's $45,000 worth of liens on the property, and the seller didn't know about it, which is it's hard to believe, but you know, that's at least what they said. Luckily, they had enough equity in the property that when they sold, they were able to pay it off.
Okay.
Okay. And typically what happens is when the seller is ready to pay off that large amount, the attorney gets involved, and the attorney says, okay, well, the seller owes you $45,000. They're ready to pay it off. They'll give you 20. And they normally get it for a lower price, right? But it's also happened on the flip side with a buyer that I represented. My nephew, he went and bought a house, and two weeks before he was closing, there was $75,000 in judgments on a property. Okay. Doesn't happen all the time, but It certainly does happen. Okay. Improvements. So, you know, if you're walking into a property and you see that there's some improvements, like they have a finished basement, you know, they put on a beautiful addition, there's an in-ground pool, shed in the backyard, you want to ask the seller if they have any permits or certificates of compliance for those. You know, if the house was built in 1940 and it looks like that the basement was finished in 1960, there's probably a really good chance that there's no permit for it. So if there isn't, you just want to put unknown. You do not want to call the town and ask the town, because then the town will go over and knock on the seller's door and want to look at their finished basement, and then you're going to have an unhappy seller. Okay. Where I get more, a little bit more specific with this is, let's say, you know, houses in Irondequoit or the city, they have like 3rd floor attics, okay, and they're finished. And the seller says, you know, we want to get a value for that. And you're taking a house that was normally 1,300 square foot and you're saying it's 1,500 square feet. You got to make sure that that space that you're including is legal. Does it have a secondary egress? Okay. Because if a buyer is going to come in and spend, you know, money on that room being finished, you want to make sure that you have the square footage correctly. Okay. Any questions on that? Okie doke. Gas rights. To my knowledge, all gas, mineral, oil, and timber rights will transfer with the property. That's always marked yes. Typically, I mean, 99.9%. I am receiving royalty payments for gas. Most of the time they're not. So yes, no. And then if I am receiving, if they check no, this is not applicable. So typically it's yes, no, not applicable. Propane. Owner represents the realtor as the property is serviced by propane, either yes or no. If it's checked yes, owner represents that the propane tank is not or is owned by the owner. That there is not or is an existing written contract to provide propane from the propane company. Okay. So you want to know who owns the tank. Most of the time, if the seller owns the tank, they're paying more for propane. Propane companies give a discount to sellers if they're leasing the tank to them. So it's very important to know who owns the tank or not. And a lot of times, if you're selling a house with propane, if it's got a full propane tank, the seller might want to be reimbursed back if propane is in the tank. Number 18, authorization of representative to pay a commission without in any way limiting any provisions of paragraph 6. I authorize my closing representative, such as the attorney, to pay a realtor the commission. If the proceeds of the sale of the property, or at the time that it closes, if the proceeds of the sale are insufficient to pay the entire commission, I agree to pay the balance of the commission to realtor. So if they don't have enough money to pay the commission, then the attorneys are going to have to work out something with them to where they pay ultimately, you know, they'll eventually make whole on it. Okay. Life of contract, sale or lease of property after closing date ends. So this contract will last until midnight on. So let's say we say the contract expired on April Fool's Day, April 1st. However, if I sell or lease the property within X amount of days, so what this is saying is, let's say somebody came in on March 30th, looked at the property. Listing contract expired on the 1st. And let's say the seller has not listed the property with another realtor, and that buyer comes back on the second and says, you know what, I want to buy this house. The seller agrees to sell the property, we will still get paid a commission. So it all depends on the number of days that are in here. Typically, a lot of times, if your listing expires, they'll either relist with you or they will relist with another company immediately afterwards. Now, how long do we typically list a house for? I typically list a house for, okay? If you're doing a market analysis.
How long was that, Rick? My speaker cut out.
Yep, 4 months. I typically list a home for 4 months. If you're doing a market analysis on a property and you see like the average days on the market are, 80 days, you probably want to list it for 150, 180 days. You wouldn't want to list it for 4 months. Okay. I normally put 15 days in here in this blank. So 15 days after my contract ends, if someone that has seen it before wants to make an offer on it, I still get paid a commission. Now, let's say the seller, their house expires, and they want to list the property with you. You do not have to wait for these days to expire. You can list it the day after the actual listing expired. You don't have to worry about this in here. I've had sellers many times say to me, yes, I want to list a house with you, but it says in there that I can't list it with anybody for another 60 days after my contract ends. And I'm like, why don't you send that contract to me? And they're talking about this right here. It's not the case. They can list the house with you the next day after it expires. And if you have the house listed and that buyer that came in with the other realtor, while the other realtor had it listed, let's say that buyer and their realtor want to put an offer in and you have it listed, you get the commission. Okay. Again, non-discrimination, renewal and modification of the contract. Anytime you change anything to this, to the listing, you have to sign a change form. Okay. So if you need to reduce the price of the house, the seller has to sign a change form saying that they're agreeing for you to change the price from $149,900 to $149,800. Owner's liability for contract termination. If the seller wants to terminate the contract, they can, but they'll be liable for any damages or expenses that are accrued by us, the realtor. Responsibility of owners of this contract. All owners must sign this contract. So if you're going to list this property, and let's say there's an estate that owns the property, and there's 7 children as part of the estate, and they all have to sign it. Every single one of them. Okay, so whoever owns the property has to sign this contract. The indemnification, this kind of protects us that if the seller gives us the wrong information, or if we by accident put the wrong information inside of the MLS, like let's say we put there's a garage door opener, but there isn't. It's almost like saying it's all information is deemed reliable, but not guaranteed. If you mess up the taxes, though, you can get taxes can come out of your commission. You want to make sure you have true taxes. We talked about number 26, on what that paragraph can be used for? Owners will sign, print. We have to sign, print. They'll sign, and then every page needs to be initialed by the owners and by us. Any questions on that form? All right. What's going on here? Where did that just happen? How do I get rid of it? This is the first, guys. I apologize. Did my screen just lock up? Can you guys hear me okay? Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that. I don't know why this is. Look at that. Just made everything bigger. I don't know what just happened there. I apologize. Okay. So we talked about this. Okay. This form right here is the form that we fill out that becomes the MLS form that you see inside in the MLS system. Okay. So we'll go through this. Every form, everything that has an R next to it is required. So let's say like value range pricing, this is always no. Back in like 1995, a real estate company had the bright idea of doing like a range of listing. Like they'll say, oh, we'll sell our house between 180 and 200. Like that's what the list price was. It made no sense at all because no one ever offered 200,000. They always offered 180, you know? So it made no sense. So obviously square footage, number of acres, all this needs to be filled out. List date, expiration date. It's an exclusive right to sell contract. Let's talk about broker agent compensation, buyer agent compensation, and sub agent compensation. What is the buyer's agent compensation?
3%.
3%. What's the broker agent compensation?
0%.
0. Thank you. What's the sub agent compensation?
0%.
0. Perfect. 0, 3, 0. Okay. That reflects 0, 3, 0. Okay. All right. Private remarks. These are remarks that only realtors will see. So this is where you want to put like your COVID disclosure, if there's delayed negotiations, the instructions, things of that nature. Okay. Every page needs to be initialed by the seller. This general information I don't fill out. Okay, all this area, room length, width, all that kind of stuff, I typically don't fill out. Here, you want to, you know, put, are there any first floor bedrooms? In order to be a legal bedroom, it has to have a closet. Okay, so if there's no closet in the room, it's not a bedroom. So bedrooms on the first floor, second floor, third floor, bedrooms on the fourth floor, or any basements or any bedrooms in the basement, okay? So let's talk about bedrooms in the basement. If there's a bedroom downstairs, it has a closet, but there's no way of getting outside from that bedroom. You can get outside if there's a walkout basement. You can get outside if you go back up the stairs. But in order for a bedroom in the a bedroom to be considered a bedroom in the basement, you have to be able to get outside from that room. There has to be an egress window. Okay. And we do not count basement square footage as square footage of the house. You put the square footage of the house, and then you want to write in the comments additional number of square feet in the basement. Any questions on that? Okay, full bathroom, first, second, third, fourth, and basement, half bathrooms, total number of rooms and total number of stories. So a ranch is 1 story. A house that's considered a cape is 1.7. And then when all the bedrooms are upstairs, it's considered 2.0. All right.
So the total,
Style
is that just including what's in that list there, the bedrooms and the bathrooms, or is that also including the kitchen and the dining room and
the total rooms here?
Yeah.
Yeah, that includes bedrooms, bathrooms, but bedrooms and like living room, dining room, kitchen, that area, living room, stuff like that. Good question. Style of residence. Now, if it's a 2-story home, I would recommend also putting either a colonial or a contemporary. Okay. A contemporary is a house that has like funky windows and a lot of peaks and things like that. Okay. But a lot of times when a buyer's agent sets up a search for their buyer, they will either, let's say they put, oh, you know, my buyer's looking for a colonial, and they don't put 2-story. Okay. If you just put 2-story and you didn't put colonial, this listing will not show up on their search. So you want to make sure you put both. Let's see here. Public remarks. This is where you want to put, you know, have a nice description about the property. Directions to the property. I would, you know, put directions from like a main road to the house. You're not allowed to put just GPS here. You have to actually write out the directions. Some of these here, additional interior features, additional exterior features, those are not required. But you definitely want to, when you get to the house, you want to see, you know, if the house has any of these features here. Okay. So what I typically do is I will fill out this paperwork through Instinet Transaction Desk. And then the areas that I don't know about, or I'm going to have questions about, when I print them out, I highlight those areas. So when I'm at the house, I know what to look for. Accessibility. You know, if you walk into a house and you think that the, you know, the doors are oversized to where, you know, someone in a wheelchair will be able to get through those, you want to make sure that you put that information down. Okay. Fireplaces. Is it a gas fireplace? Is it a wood burning fireplace? Do they not have any fireplaces? Then this would be all zeros. HVAC type. So does the house have forced air, central air conditioning, or is it, you know, baseboard hot water heat and they don't have central air? If it's in the village of Fairport, they may have municipal electric. Okay. So, you know, you want to make sure you know what the HVAC types. Do you guys have questions about HVAC types or anything like this at all? Like, we're familiar with what a forced air unit looks like versus a hot water unit? Types of heat. Okay. Water heater, is it powered by gas or is it electric? Heating fuel, is it gas or is it electric? Does it have a sewer or is it septic? Are they on public water or are they on well? So you want to make sure that, you know, all that information is disclosed. Homeowners payment. Some houses are on a private drive or they're on a road where, you know, they share snow plowing. Then there's probably a homeowner's payment. This is where you want to put the taxes in, your town and county, your school, if it has a village tax. Now let's talk about possible financing for a second. Most houses, let's back up for a sec. So there's three types of mortgages, two main types. There's three that people will go for, and then there's possibilities of a fourth and a fifth, right? So conventional financing and FHA are the two top dogs in financing, right? You have conventional, and then you have FHA financing. Now, FHA differs from conventional because it's a governmentally insured loan, okay? So with FHA, they also, when they send out their appraiser, the appraiser looks for deficiencies in the property. Does the roof have life on it? Is there any chip paint? What do the windows look like? Are all the handrails up? So they're looking for safety things. So when you're walking into a property and you're seeing a lot of chip paint and you see the roof is curling and the roof has no life in it, there's probably a good chance that it is not able to get FHA financing. Okay. Conventional, they're more lenient on that stuff because it's not governmentally insured. Now, a lot of some townhome communities do not allow for FHA financing. So if you're going to list a townhouse, you want to call the homeowners association of the townhouse community and ask them if they allow FHA financing. They'll be able to tell you yes or no. You don't just want to assume and say yes, FHA financing, and then people bring their FHA buyers and they're not able to purchase the house. I can also tell you that condo do not allow FHA financing. Some townhouses do not. Mostly all condo do not. So these are top dogs. Obviously, we like cash offers. Cash offers are nice. So you're going to check cash, conventional, if you can do FHA, and now there's also VA. This is a for the veterans mortgage. This, like FHA, is governmentally insured. This loan is fantastic for veterans because they pretty much allow for no down payment. The tricky part with VA is that they're very, very, very strict on appraisals. Very strict. So in this day and age where you're having houses sell for $40,000, $50,000 over list price, you got to be very careful with FHA. Not saying that it won't get, you know, approved or appraised, but you want to be very careful with FHA or with a VA. So cash, conventional, FHA, and VA. This USDA is for properties that are located just outside of, let's say like, I live in Greece. So if you go out to Parma and west, when you get out to more rural areas, USDA is available for buyers. Okay. Again, a very good loan program for buyers, low debt, low money out of pocket. You know, you could pretty much finance everything and go and buy a USDA home with no money out of pocket. Like, it's phenomenal. There's income limitations, things like that. But you want to check the USDA map to see if your property falls within that territory. Okay. Possession. Typically, possession will be at the time of closing. You want to say yes for your listing to be on the internet, yes for the street address to be on the internet, no for third-party blogs, and I really don't know what AVM is, but we always say no to AVM. Okay. Our escrow bank is Lions National, and the escrow agent is Keller Williams, either Greater Rochester, West, or Gateway. Going through a lot of information here. Do you guys have any questions? Okay. Best way to start getting to know these forms is fill them out, take a listing that's out there, and do it backwards. Fill out this paperwork from the listing that's in the computer. Okay. You know, when we pair you with a mentor, you know, these are the activities that you'll be going through with your mentor that they can help you out with. Listing agent, we sign, the firm, they sign, date, and they initial every page. This is the property condition disclosure. So all sellers must fill this out. It's new construction, condominiums, commercial properties, foreclosed properties, 5+ multi-unit dwellings, land, HUD properties, or vacant land. Okay. Also, estate sales. So let's say a parent passes away and it goes to the estate. The estate has never lived in the house. They do not have to fill this out. But mostly all sellers have to fill out these questions. Okay. This protects the buyer from any latent defects. What a latent defect is something that the seller knows about that happens to the property that the seller would or that the buyer would have no idea until they move in. So let's say in February, in the corner of the kitchen, when there's ice damming and the snow melts, they get a leak every single February. The buyer buys the house in June, they're not going to see that any evidence of that leak. So this keeps the seller to answer all this very honestly, so that if the buyer goes in and sees something like that, they have some sort of recourse against the seller afterwards. Okay. By law, we cannot help the seller fill any of this out. They have to fill it out. Question that I always get asked that most sellers do not know is, what is the amperage of their panel box? Okay. So I'll tell them to go downstairs, open up their panel box, look at the very top circuit, and on that circuit, there'll be a number engraved. They'll either say 100, 150, or 200. That's their amperage. Okay. And then I always highlight this area right here. Are there any known material defects in any of the following? A lot of sellers will say, are there any known material? Okay, what a plumbing system? Yes, I have a plumbing system. Smoke detector? Yes, I have a smoke detector. That's not the case. It's, are there any known material defects in them? So plumbing system, hopefully it's no. If they don't have a security system, it's not applicable. Make sense? Okay. They write what school district it is. Now, let's just go back up here. So, like a lot of times, are there any flooding, drainage or grading problems that result in any standing water on the property? So a lot of times, you know, a seller will say, oh, you know, in the back corner, you know, in March, when we get the rains in April, there's water that sits back there. Do I need to disclose that? I always say yes. Okay. This is the best time to disclose anything that might happen to the property, even though that's not a huge deal. Disclose it. Say yes. And then over here, they explain. Oh, you know, when we get the snow melt and a lot of rain in the back northwest corner, we get some ponding. That's it. That's all they have to say. Now the buyer knows. In this market, they're a lot more accepting of things that might be wrong with the house if it's brought to their attention up front than down the road. Okay. But yes, that's something that they have to disclose. They sign lead compliance. This is for houses built prior to 1978. Most of the time they have no knowledge and they have no reports. They need to initial. We have to initial that we have informed the seller of their obligations. They sign and we sign and we both date. And they got to initial the bottom here. Now, in this day and age, there's a lot of delayed showings and delayed negotiations. Okay, so let's say you want to put this property, you want to put it on the market on Tuesday, but you don't want any showings to happen until Thursday. Okay. So here, you would say that, and then let's say start Thursday, but you're not going to look at any offers until Monday. That's delayed negotiation. This is where the seller has to fill out no showings until the Thursday date and no negotiations until the Monday date. Okay. Does that make sense? So this form, the property condition disclosure, the lead disclosure, and the delayed negotiation, this has to be uploaded as a supplement, an attachment to your listing when you list the property. This right here, like some realtors, they'll send this out beforehand for buyer's agent and buyers to sign to make sure, you know, all the COVID questions. Some listing agents will print these out and leave them at the house. If you're doing an open house, I would say print these out, and anyone that comes into the house, have them fill this out also. Okay, so this just makes sure that they haven't tested positive for COVID in 14 days. They're not experiencing symptoms. They haven't traveled to another state, all that kind of stuff. This might actually change soon. We'll probably have to add a new form to it. Okay. So these are all the forms that we need when listing a property. Okay. So please, if there's any questions, just please let me know. No questions. Okay. All right. So I want to show you something here. This is our MLS. Okay. If you go into the MLS and you see this external links right here, if you click on the Lone Wolf, that's going to open up Transaction Desk. Okay. If you go over to this side right here, the forms, this has every single real estate form that you'll need of GRAR forms. The only forms that won't be in here is the KW franchise addendum and the Oasis Insurance Group addendum, the first two that we went through. Okay. But that every single form that you need is in here. So if you need, you know, a contract, a listing contract, here's all your contracts, your exclusive right to sell, your purchase offer, purchase and residential contracts. Okay. Now I want to show you also, if you go into, let's say you're going to write up an offer on this house right here. See this wolf up here? If you click on that wolf, that brings you into your dashboard. You can pick your template. So let's say it's going to be a KW purchase of a residential home. If you click this, it's automatically going to download all the forms that you need to write up an offer on a property. This is going to save you a lot of time. And it also auto-populates a lot of the information from the listing. Click the wolf. Type a transaction. If you want to write up an offer, residential home, all of it will be, all the forms will be there for you. Okay. That would just save you a little bit of time. But at any rate, that form that we just went through, that we were going through all the different, like here you can see private remarks, public remarks, what the property has, if it has a fireplace, type of financing, who the escrow company is. So you can see how that form, you know, once you put it in, translates to this here. Okay. Another cool thing is, so remember how I said like you have to upload the property condition disclosure and lead disclosure as a supplement or an attachment. If you click this paper clip, you'll see your COVID, your delayed negotiations, your lead, and your property condition disclosure all there. Okay, that's what it looks like when you put it into the MLS. This is nice too, because you're able to go in and you see this flood map. You can see if the house is located in a flood zone. Flood zone code X. So it's out of the flood zone. This is always cool to have. They didn't have this for a while, but you can check different flood maps. All right, well, I'm sure you guys have gone through a lot of information today, and it's a lot to take in. I totally understand and get it. You you know, is there anything that you want to ask me? You know, it doesn't have to necessarily be listing anything. Is there anything in real estate you want to ask me, or
Could you,
anything in general?
I see down at the bottom of this page, you know, you have email, print, and then the CMA. I've been trying to figure out how to do a CMA on a house that's not listed. So I would pull up the houses that are similar to the one that I'm trying to list. And then could you walk me through how I'd work a CMA?
Yeah. So this is what you're going to do. See this real list up here? This is your tax record. Okay. So what you want to do is, first and foremost, okay, let's say, let me just put a house in here. Okay. So this right here will give you the basic information on the property. Okay. So what I typically do is I'll take this, and you see where it says print down here?
Yeah.
I'll do a quick print, and I'll print this out so I have the information. It gives you the bedrooms, the square footage, okay, what they bought the house for. Lot size, central air or not, how many bathrooms. So this gives you the pertinent information on the property, okay? So once you have that, then you want to go into your matrix, okay? See where it says search? If it's a single family, you open up single family. And what I do is I go over to this section and I do actives, contract, pending, and sold. Depending upon how many comparables I get, if I don't get enough sold, I'll up this. So, you know, if there's not enough in a year, I'll do 2 years. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Type in your town or city. Excuse me. Now, judging from how many square feet that my house might have, let's say the house is 1,500 square feet. You might want to do a search of 1,200 to 1,700 square feet. Give yourself a range.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see here. Let's say it's a 2-story. Okay. Let's see. There's going to be plenty. So let's drop this down a little bit. Let's go through 65. Okay. Oh, sorry. Criteria. Okay. So this is our criteria. Okay. I like to start off bland. We have 199 matches. That's quite a bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's do 1,600 square feet and 1,300. Okay, that drops us to 126.
Okay.
Let's see what our results are. So you'll see there's only a few houses listed. You got your pendings and you got your sold. So what you want to do is you kind of want to go through these and kind of say, okay, which ones, you know, my house is going to be more around 130. I don't know if I'm going to use any of these 180s, right? But I'm going to show you a very a good way of like starting to do your CMAs. So let's say you want to take this house and this house. You like to have 3 from each one. So 3 actives, If you can get like an under contract and a pending, and then let's say you go to and you do 3 solds, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see where it says quick CMA?
Yeah.
If you click that, it's going to take those comparables that we checked, and it's going to put them into a nice little analysis like this. This is a quick CMA though, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times you'll have a seller say, hey, come over to my house. I want you to take a walk through and let me know what I need to do to the property. Okay, cool. So you're going there and you're like, oh yeah, the seller just wants me to, walk through the property, and you're not going to come in with any information. They're going to ask you what you think the house is worth. It's going to happen. This is really good to bring with you so that you're able to have at least some data to show them. So if you look at this, the actives, it's going to give you an average 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, 1,452 square feet. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
List price to sale price, what the price per square foot is, and days on the market. Actives, pendings, and now you got sold.
Got it.
Got it? Now, let me show you another way. You understand this pretty good?
Yeah.
So far? Okay, let me show you another way. So let's say we're going to do a search. Okay. We go back residential single family. Open it up. You see this map search? If you click on the map search and you put in the address, now, see the address? See where the address is? Now what you can do is you can say, okay, I want to do the neighborhoods that are close by. You see this little shape right here? You click on that shape, you can draw a line and say, I want to include all these houses. I did a very bad thing of the line right here, but it still works. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now you go back to criteria. Pending, sold. And let's say we do 730. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
If we go back to the map search, now you're comparing houses right in the same area. Okay? Do you understand how that worked?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, good. So you got that. Now we click results. Now we got all this nice data right in that neighborhood. Click the box at the top. So you're selecting all of them. Quick CMA.
What's the difference between the quick CMA and the regular CMA?
So this is just kind of like, okay, so when you're doing a CMA, okay, if you take this house that's 2,566 square feet, okay, see how this house is 2,079 square feet? That's not apples to apples. Way bigger than this house. So in your CMA, you're going to be able to adjust for the square footage. Okay? So a house that's smaller in square footage is going to have a larger price per square foot.
Okay.
566. You see, it's almost $20 less a square foot because it's that much bigger. Ultimately, more money, but less per square foot.
I could also do that under my criteria. I could put in, that's what you were doing, is putting in the square footage to eliminate that discrepancy.
Yes, but if you go and do that, and not finding enough comparables,
Okay.
then now, okay, I'm gonna show you something, and I'll tell you how you can make this square footage apples to apples. Okay, follow along for a second.
Okay.
What you're doing is you're taking this house that's greater, and let's say your house that you're comparing it to is 2,166 square feet. So your property that you want to list is 2,166.
Mm-hmm.
This house is 2,566. What is the difference in square footage?
Couple hundred on either side.
400 square feet, right? So you have the house that you're going to list is 2,166, and the house right here that we're trying to compare it to is 2,566.
Okay,
So
got it.
So there's 400 square feet difference. Now we got to make up for that. So this house is selling for $132 a square foot. You take the difference of this house from your house that you're going to be listing, which is 400 square feet, right?
Correct.
You multiply that 400 square feet times the 132.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
400 times 132 is $52,800. This is where it's going to get confusing. The appraisal method, you divide that number by 3. So it's $17,600. Because this house is greater, you take that $17,600 and you subtract it from the sale price.
Okay. And
Now,
that's what would be happening in the regular CMA?
in the regular CMA, that's how you should do that. Because now what you're doing is you're taking apples and oranges, and when you subtract that $18,000, now you just made up the difference in square footage. Now it's apples to apples. So you're doing a cost adjustment.
Okay.
It takes practice, but that's what you're doing in that main CMA.
Got it.
Okay.
So we would use the regular CMA if there weren't enough houses that met our criteria with a quick CMA, then we'd have to get creative in the regular CMA.
Well, if you don't have enough houses in the quick CMA, you're going to have to go a little bit further back to try to get more houses.
Okay.
Okay. If there's not enough apples to apples right off the bat, that's where this will get a little skewed.
Okay.
Okay. But what I normally do is, if that's the case, I take the greater and the lesser, the top and the bottom, and I get rid of them. And I take the meat in the middle. That typically balances the scale a little bit.
Okay.
Did that totally confuse you, or did that help you at all?
No. It helped. I mean, the main
Good.
teaching how to do the CMA, that I had no idea of really how to do that. So you walked me through that. That's fantastic. The difference between the quick CMA and the regular CMA, I think I understand that. I'll use the quick CMA unless I can't, and then you explain the process of what the regular CMA would be.
Yes. Yep.
Multiplying the difference in the square foot by the price per square foot, dividing by 3, and subtracting that from the higher value.
Yeah. So let's say you could tell this house is 2,566. The rest of these 2,079. I would probably say I want to compare this, and this. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Quick CMA. look, the averages are kind of right there, 2,208, 287, 134 a square foot, 17 days on the market. If your house, give or take, let's say it's 2,100 square feet, take that 100, multiply it by the 134, and subtract it from the sale price. That's going to give you what that value is.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But again, this is all stuff that when you do it 3-4 times, you'll get the hang of it, no problem.
My main question was the original stuff that you went over, where go to the realist with the actual property that I want to get the CMA for,
Yep.
find out everything about that piece of property, put as much of that into the matrix that I need to get the approximate size and locations,
Yep.
and then take those and make the comparative of those.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. The quick CMA is awesome. It's a great
Awesome.
tool. I mean, it takes all that information and in 3 seconds you have all that data in front of you.
Perfect.
Okay. Any other questions? That's it. All right. Well, that's pretty much everything I have done. I hope this was helpful. Again, practice, practice, practice. And, we do this class every month. So, now that you kind of have the basis of everything, it's always good to take it a second time. And then, it's like watching a movie a second time, right? You're going to be able to catch different things that you didn't the first time. So, feel free to take it as much as possible. If you have any questions going forward, I'll give you my email address. It's Rick Visca. So RICK, V as in Victor, I, S as in Sam, C as in Charlie, A as in Apple. So Rick Visca at kw.com. I'm also the leader of the new agent, the launch program. So I'll be pairing any new agents with a mentor. And my cell phone number is 585-455-769. Got a question or whatever, feel free to text me and let me know. All right.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
All right,
Thank you.
guys. Thank you very much. You have a good one. Enjoy the day.
Thank you.
Thank
Yep.
you.
All right. Bye-bye.